Hello everyone and welcome to round 3 of F1 esports here in the Austrian GP. Of course, naturally we are starting our video here in Q1 and wow, okay, there's a lot of overtaking opportunities on Austria, so qualifying isn't always the most important, but it's definitely very important to hook up the lap here, as it's a very short lap, a very quick lap in time as well, and the white lines are pretty much a risk at every single corner of the track. So that being said then, a common strategy, especially in the early phase of qualifying, that can work all the way through, is having enough fuel to do a double push lap if so required. You can see I have 1.9, 1.8 laps of fuel, and that's simply because I was doing this strategy as well, is leaving enough fuel in the car that if I do want to abort a lap, I have the time and fuel necessary to recover and get the battery back to 100%, have enough fuel to get around the extra lap, and of course get back to pit lane after. The lap times are starting to fly in now, as we've done a pretty solid first lap here so far, and ultimately hooking it up pretty well. Bits of wheel spin here and there, as you can see some of the cars aborting their laps that I was talking about, doing the double lap strategy as well on the inside and outside of the track, as we go past Ruben there as he's warming up his tyres. Coming to the end of Sector 3, fully committed into the apex. I really love these final two corners here in the Austrian GP, just throwing the car in, letting it stick, and ultimately that put us up in P9 for our first run. Here in our second run of Q1 is going to be required to improve our lap time here. As you can see by the delta 11 seconds down, we did make a mistake on our first lap, and ultimately now we have got our second lap and no more chances to be making any mistakes. You can see up ahead we got Jed just driving on the racing line, and just driving on the racing line, and I tried my best to stay out of the slipstream because it's a regulation in F1 esports that you can't have the slipstream in qualifying, so I was trying my best. It was quite a bit of a distraction, but ultimately didn't really hinder our lap too much, although we have got some lap time to find, and going into the end of Sector 2 and start of Sector 3, we're going to have to hook up these apexes exceptionally well. It's also worth noting for the incident with Jed, the stewards didn't see a reason for a penalty with that as well, so he'll be able to claim his normal starting grid position, and that incident on the Sector 1 will not be affecting that. But with that being said though, coming through the final apex of lap, you can see we found so much time, actually improving our lap time at the end of it and being able to secure our place going through Q1 and into Q2 as well. Our first lap of Q2, as you can see now through the final apexes of the lap. I have so much front wing on this car. It was so much fun to drive, just throw it into the apexes and letting it stick. Purple Sector 3, and ultimately that first lap put us all the way up in P6 at the moment, so it's looking very nice, looking very good so far, with 20 seconds on the lap time board to go. And you can see me just setting up my brake bias as we're going through the final corner now, opening up the throttle, a little twitch of wheel spin and the rear screen for traction, grip and purchase. And now we're coming down into turn 1, absolutely throw it in, let the car rotate beautifully back on the power, finding time. Should be green on our delta by the end of Sector 1. Down on the brake bias, 55%. And as you can see now, we do a 9.64 first sector. My wing level was pretty decent. Not great, not bad, but should be enough so far to be putting us through into Q3. We found a bit of time on the rotation, on the traction as well, and ultimately now we're half a tenth up, down the gears, let the car rotate. Didn't hook up the inside apex perfectly, but the outside apex was lovely, was able to be a tenth up coming out of there, through the left-hander, down to 6th gear. You can see how much rotation we have, and we can just point the front of the car wherever we want it to go, and it will stick. The question is, will the rear stick on this setup? And that's what I was dancing around. 10th up on the delta, purple middle sector, throw the car in, down to 6th gear, let the car rotate, and I knew that this would be enough, so I didn't take too much risk in the final corner of the lap. And that puts us up all the way into P5, and now coming to the end of my first qualifying lap in Q3 on a worn set of tyres. We did a 3.5, but yeah, it's not really relevant. And now this is where qualifying becomes not so great, to be honest. Not so great, because quite simply I got told I had enough time to do a double fuel run, like I alluded to earlier in the video in Q1, to have enough fuel and time to basically do the lap if I want to, abort the lap, and then recharge the battery, get the tyres back in the operating window, then go again. So you can see we have 3.4 laps of fuel, and I was told in the garage that I had enough time, that everything would be okay, to go out and do this strategy of a push, abort, push if necessary, and if I don't need to abort, I can just push the first lap in is good. But as you can see now, bringing the tyres into an operating window, just warming them up slowly. But as we come through this corner, you won't be able to hear it because, of course, we don't have the radio communication linked to this video today. As you can see now, just bring the tyre temperatures up. I'm going to be told to abort this strategy, and now I have to make the decision to now burn the fuel off as much as possible, as the calculation the engineers did was wrong, was incorrect. So basically ended up in a situation that I wouldn't have enough time to do an abort lap if I needed to. So I would have just started the lap with extra fuel, or way extra fuel than I would have needed. So now you can see I'm desperately, just passionately so much just trying to get the fuel out of the car right now, revving the engine to the pistons flying to the grandstand. I'm just trying so hard to get the fuel out of this car right now in any method possible, and this is completely destroying my warm-up procedure as well for the tyre temperature. As you can see, just trying to stay off the racing line as Ulas go past us. But yeah, I'm trying my hardest to get the fuel out of the car right now and get the car as light as possible, as this is a really, really bad situation going on to our final lap, and really not great also for the mindset going into a lap, because now my tyre temperatures are not what I'm used to. The fuel is way higher than I should be. I briefly went into neutral there by mistake. Of course, I don't want to come to a stop on the track, but you can see my front tyre temperatures are way hotter relatively than my rears, and ultimately I don't have a choice right now, because I have to put the engine back down to lean to manage the engine temperature a little bit, so I don't want to start the lap with an overheating engine. And ultimately now my front tyre temps are hotter than my rears, and I don't like this. Already from practice I tested this, and I like my rear temperatures to be hotter, if not the same, than my fronts. I find if I have hotter fronts, then I just get understeer. So yeah, we're starting the lap with 0.6 extra fuel, a compromised out lap, not ideal at all. So in turn one, what can we do? We pick up a bit of understeer actually again, as I was talking about. That front tyre temperature is not what I like. It's not the feeling, the grip, what I'm looking for. So we have to try and recover this lap as much as possible right now. End of sector one, a 9.49, not optimal, quite bad, not great. But the lap and the sector was pretty good for the driving, but we just do not have the front grip to rotate the car. Remember, the Delta is by a worn tyre set, so it's not going to be super relative. Down on the brakes, rotate the car. Again, understeering towards the exit. It's not good, it's not great, it's not perfect. And to be anywhere near the front in esports, you need to be perfect. Again, understeer. And now we're going into the final sector, and we're really just going to have to commit everything we can going into these final two apex of the lap. You're going to see me full risk, full reward, throw the car in, down to 6th gear, maximum push right up against the white line. Again, we had a little jiggle on the rear for the rear grip, but ultimately across the line, and that is a 9.22 and suboptimal. To be honest, really suboptimal. I really wasn't happy with the lap time. I really wasn't happy with the position, as I really believed we could go a lot better with better warm-up procedure and a lower fuel, of course. But of course, these mistakes can happen behind the scenes. We had a debrief about what happened, and it didn't happen again for the rest of the season. So for that, mistakes can happen, and progress is progress. And ultimately was able to finish 8th in the qualifying session. And given the circumstances that I had, I was actually quite proud of P8, to be honest. And I knew that if we had a better warm-up procedure, we could have definitely been higher up. But that's all done and dusted now. We're on the grid here, 5 lights, and it is 5 lights and lights out, and away we go. Here in Austria, you can see we're on a hard compound tyres. A lot of people on the medium compound tyres around us. We look up the inside of Jake Benham, but ultimately back out of it as well, just to be a bit more sensible. We dived up the inside, but left ourselves the opportunity to get out of it if we needed to. And now, this is where we start to settle into our race. Basically, everyone around us, as we get a bit of a jump scare for Lucas. Wow. Lucas was about to send it. But yeah, ultimately everyone around us is pretty much on the medium compound tyres. Ulas is on the hard compound tyres. So right now I'm happy just to manage my race, manage my situation, as Jake gets a bit of rear locking and a snap of oversteer to go with that. And now towards the end of lap 1, start of lap 2 as well, you can see Lucas is right up behind us on the medium compound tyres, and we're not going to make it easy, but we're not going to fight him. It's not our race, it's not our situation right now to be burning our battery unnecessarily, trying to fight him while we're on a slower compound tyre. You can see we do a bit of a lift and coast as well to maximise the efficiency on the battery saving. And again, same story with Jarno. We're not going to make it easy, we're going to try and hang it around the outside, but look, there's no point to me to fight Jarno right now. You can see he leaves the space on the exit. He's got so much more grip on the soft compound tyres. His race and my race do not line up. But as his tyres start to go away, I knew my opportunities would rise and rise and rise, and this is exactly what happened. I'm all over the back of Jarno, deploy the battery, and Jarno very much repays the favour, to be honest. I gave him an easy job earlier, he gave me an easy job when going back past him as well. And this, to be honest, is what a lot of smart racing is in F1 esports, is understanding when not to fight and what cars to fight in certain times. But with that being said, we're all over the back of Lucas, trying to snatch an overtake on him, going around the outside, side by side on the exit. You can see, just didn't get the traction on the curve, and Lucas was able to retain his P8 position for now, as we're hunting all over the back of him. Going on to lap 11, full battery, we've been tyre saving, managing our pace, managing the situation, managing the engine temperature as well, and now we're deploying the battery down the first DRS straight here in the Austrian GP track around the outside of Lucas Blakely, and we're just going to hang around the outside. Almost got around the outside of Jake as well, but a small lockup on the front axle, but nevertheless we got our target done, achieved, and now completed in front of Lucas Blakely here on lap 11 of the race. And now we're just looking all over the back of Jake, as ultimately the race is going to start getting a very spicy here on lap 14, and the virtual safety car has been deployed, and this met a lot of controversy, as we can all imagine, over social media. And now you can see I'm slowing down, trying to make a gap, because I was certain that Thomas was going to be boxing ahead of me. So I started to think, I knew in the rule book that you could slow down and not get a penalty for it. So I started to slow down the pack behind me so I would not be held in the pit stop. But ultimately, Thomas did not box anyway and gave us the free priority, the full ability to make the pit stop without being held up in that situation. So he didn't need to slow down anyway, but yeah, this VSC caused a lot of controversy, and ultimately the VSC was removed from the F1 Esports build and the rulebook of the F1 Esports World Championship, or the F1 Sim Racing World Championship, I should say, ultimately, and you won't be seeing the virtual safety car return for the rest of the season. Yeah, it was met with a lot of controversy, that's for sure, but now Lucas is back in the race as well, so we can expect this virtual safety car to be turned off imminently, and ultimately we have gained a huge advantage from this, an unfair advantage, because I have to be honest, it wasn't a fair advantage. We just took the cards that were on the table, and well, in some way fortunate for us that it worked out this way, but yeah, it doesn't sit right for me, to be honest, that it went this way. But with all that being said though, we are actually in P3 in this race right now. Of course, top left it says P6, but ultimately in track positions when pit stops play out, we're in P3. So, well, on the medium compound tyres, we have to get a move on ahead of Bari and Jake right now. Purple sector 1, and now it's really critical, it's crunch time to get into the race lead here so we can start managing our tyres, managing the gap, maybe work with Alfie as well because he's on the medium compound tyres, looking down the inside. Bari covers it off very late, we look around the outside and we have to back out of it, we lose momentum, and now Alfie is all over the back of us, along the outside of us as well, looking around the outside. We're trying to hang on, side by side racing, just about touching, and we got away with that. We probably left some pretty tyre marks on the side of that Haas side pod as well, but we got away with that. Very nice, clean, decisive racing with Alfie there. Alfie now has got into a train lead, and I'm trying to look all over the back of these cars, just trying to manage the situation, manage the battery a little bit now, going for the switchback. Jake and Bari make contact up ahead, and you can see it's a really difficult situation between using a lot of battery and not using the battery right now. We start saving the battery, saving the tyres, managing the situation, but another twist has been thrown into the race. Ulas Alfie's teammate up ahead has now started slowing everyone down, and now he's giving his teammate the opportunity to run off into the distance, and this is very much compromising our race. And already I was thinking at this point, right, how can we maximize the situation? How can we get past Ulas without using the battery, not how to risk a front wing, not to get damage, and ultimately give ourselves the best chance possible of catching Alfie up ahead, as Austria has huge opportunities for slipstreaming and ultimately catching up later as well. You can see we did a big lift and coast in turn 1 to save the battery. Got an amazing run out of the first corner, side by side in the slipstream of Jake Benham. You can see Bar is going to go down the inside of Ulas, and massive dive there, and he's actually out of battery as well. We're doing a switchback on Ulas, and now we've got past him and we're clear up behind. So now I was thinking, right, Bari is flashing his battery. I'm weaving. I'm saying, okay, let's work together. Let's work together. We can easily catch Alfie. We can easily catch him if we work together. So I was thinking, right, okay, let's work together. I start seeing Bari and Jake look to maybe be switching, to be de-resting each other, to be e-resting each other and helping each other to catch and bridge that gap to Alfie, who's only 2-3 seconds up the road. So it's fully possible. It's fully plausible. But ultimately, right now, we have to focus on defending from Ismail and using up a bit of battery unnecessarily. It's not good for our race, and ultimately now we have to use up more battery as Ismail is pushing us very hard. So now I was thinking, right, I want to work with Jake. I want to work with Jake because Bari is flashing on his battery, and ultimately that's not going to help us get back up. So I was thinking, right, get past Bari, get in the slipstream with Jake, start swapping positions with Jake as well. As you can see now, using a lot of battery because Bari also was using a battery to defend, and now I'm trying to follow Bari through. It's not ideal. We're side by side. We're losing so much time to Alfie Butcher up ahead, and now we've got to defend from Ismail, and that's going to be very difficult. We're out of battery. We're under 10%. We look down the inside. We think better of it. We think that's not going to work. It's not worth the risk at this point in time. But you can see now it was a bit cheeky and not very fair, and now we're getting pushed to the inside with Bari, so it's all kicking off, and now Ismail goes around the outside as we got boxed in from Bari up ahead, and now you can see side by side I pick up a little bit of marbles on the tyre, and that gives me a squirt of wheel spin, and it is game over compared to Ismail, and we've lost that position, and now we're under attack, we're low on battery, so we have to get this move done on Bari. We look around the outside, we find the braking zone, we find the grid, and we just get shoved off. Yeah, we just get completely shoved off, and I mean, Bari did not do something wrong. Bari interpreted the rulebook. Bari did what the rulebook said. So Bari was not wrong, and the rulebook was just not to the standard it should have been in this situation. What they did rectify for Event 3, so there was progress there. So yeah, but yeah. I could say a lot of things, but ultimately it's done, and we're all over the back of Frederick now with a big snap of wheel spin, and yeah, you can see my race is completely toasted. Absolutely toasted. My tyres are now going off, my battery's away, I don't have an ability to really properly fight at the moment, and I've lost momentum, and a lot of that started with being pushed off the track, as that cost me the one position to Freddy. If I was able to get that position compared to Bari, I think I would have been able to sit into the train, not lose momentum, and I would have been in a decent position, to be honest. But ultimately now, we've got no battery, and the hard compound tyres are just much better than ours at the moment. So my best case of action, the best thing I can do right now is actually just start saving the battery. You can see Josh goes around the outside of us. We don't use any battery, but we try to fight it anyway just to see if we can retain the position, but ultimately nothing really doing there because he's going to get on the exit, he's going to start pressing the battery, and it is going to be GG on the straight, and we're going to be cutting on to the final lap of the Austrian GP here. And yeah, it's going to start raining, and it's been a painful race, a very painful race. From looking like we could fight for the podium, fight for the win even, to still seeing the chance of fighting for the podium, seeing the win. They're just up ahead of us, but it just didn't fall our way in today's race. We got fortunate with the virtual safety car, but ultimately as well, we just didn't get fortunate in the way that the battles fell out for us. But lessons have been learned, and understanding how the rulebook can work and how to be honest, exploit the rulebook. To bring the rulebook to its maximum potential for personal and team gain is something that I learned. I especially applied in Zandvoort because yeah, I understood what the stewards were penalised and what they weren't penalised now. And like this, I could work forward and ultimately try to maximise the rest of the season. So, now it's raining, got a big snap of oversteer on the exit, and Alvaro's going to look up the inside. We're going to have a bit of wheel-to-wheel contact, and yeah, I get a bit of a push in the gravel. Alvaro, again, didn't do anything wrong, because it's just how it goes in the rain, but sums up my race, really. So painful, but we are more knowledgeable than ever with how we can apply the rulebook in the racing situations here in this F1 Sim Racing World Championship, and we're going to apply that going forward into Let Go the Races, what will be juicy as anything. No points again, but even more fired up to come back in style for tomorrow's race, and what will be tomorrow's race highlights what are coming to YouTube. So I'll catch you at 4 PM British time for the next race as well. So grazie Vazazzi, ciao ciao, and bye bye.